Here's a ranking for all things Lilo and Stitch, that's movies and TV shows in one big franchise video. The recently released live-action reimagining of Lilo and Stitch continues the legacy of one of Disney's most successful animated franchises to spawn from their movies, and you'll see why when we get to installments in the series. This order will go from worst to best, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the blue furry chaos.
You look like an angel.
For the record, the one thing in the franchise I haven't seen is the Stitch and I TV series. I didn't even know about its existence until recently, and I haven't had the chance to check it out as I'm currently in the middle of watching the original TV series. But this one was a Chinese-produced series that took place after Leroy and Stitch, and it has Stitch, for convoluted reasons, being abducted and eventually ending up in China, befriending a girl named Ai. Weird plot, but after watching the trailer, the animation was very impressive and looked more visually appealing than the Japanese anime series. I can't say much more than that as I've never seen an episode yet and it's not available on Disney+, but upon first impressions from the trailer, it doesn't look too bad. Hopefully I can check it out eventually.
Walk like an angel.
Stitch was a Japanese-produced TV series that took place after Leroy and Stitch. Thankfully, it was later dubbed in English, so I was able to check it out. It wasn't easy though, as it was not available on Disney+. It follows the adventures of Stitch in Japan, where he befriends a girl named Yuna, and the two mostly have to deal with the further world-conquering exploits of Dr. Hamsterville. This was a middling series. There were some okay adventures here and there, and it was fun to see the further use of the experiments. Yuna is no Lilo, but she's a decent, likable companion for Stitch. The villain's story is very exhausting though, having Hamsterville again and ruining the redemption of Gantu. There also is a bit of a clash in the art style, with the returning characters and the newer ones in the anime-style animation. It's an okay series, but not one I would go out of my way to check out, especially since it's not readily available on streaming. There was an episode though where Stitch goes to Tokyo Disneyland, so that was pretty fun, I guess. But the best episode by far was an episode that featured the return of Lilo. It shows the fallout of what happened to Lilo and Stitch's relationship after Leroy and Stitch. And if you want to shed a nice tear, check this episode out. It's quite the tearjerker.
Talk like an angel, but I got wine.
There was a lot of fun enthusiasm leading up to the live-action reimagining of Lilo and Stitch, based of course on the love for the franchise. But it was always going to have the same issues that other remakes have, which is living up to the original. I can't help but think of a lot of the weird changes like Jumba's arc and characterization, no Gantu, and other little things here and there. But the movie succeeded in the fun there was with Stitch, in similar ways and some notable different ways as the original. The relationship with him and Lilo was as tender and cute as it needed to be, and I really liked what was done with Nani. There were some newer additions to the story to really flesh things out and add appropriate realism. Being in that auditorium opening night, I've never heard so many sitcom reactions in a movie theater as there were here. I had a fun time despite the changes.
You're the devil in disguise, or as you are, devil in disguise.
Stitch the movie, weird title, but this was the first follow-up to Lilo and Stitch, although chronologically it takes place after the officially titled Lilo and Stitch 2, which came out 2 years later in 2005. But anyway, this movie sees Stitch learning about the existence of Jumba's other 625 experiments, and then he and Lilo must protect them from Dr. Hamsterville and Gantu, who intend to use them for a galactic conquest. This has the feel of a pilot movie, which it basically was in setting up the basic nature of the TV show on a larger scale, with Experiment 221, aka Sparky, being the main experiment of interest here. But for a TV movie, it's a fun watch with another good message about family, whether by blood or extended. It's definitely not a great movie, but it's fine enough and thankfully led to a very fun TV show.
Aloha, cousin. Stitch, the movie.
We're all one happy ohana.
You fool me with your
Lilo and Stitch 2, Stitch Has a Glitch, was the second sequel, although it takes place before Stitch the movie. Outside the original film, it's the only installment during the North American run of the franchise, not to be focused on the large-scale spectacle of the experiments, and is rather focused on a smaller story about Stitch experiencing a programming malfunction that's causing him to occasionally glitch out and ruin Lilo's upcoming hula performance. It's a lovable story that has Lilo and Stitch's relationship arguably at its best. The thing that'll always stand out as odd about this film is how it's the only time where Lilo wasn't voiced by DeVay Chase, who voiced her in all the other movies and TV show. Instead here, she's voiced by Dakota Fanning, who was actually very good here, but it's just odd in the context of the whole franchise. But while the movie has some good heart, tender moments, and humor, can't forget that.
She's touching me.
I'm not touching you.
You're touching me.
Not touching.
Touching me.
The best thing this movie has going for it is its animation. Holy does it look fantastic for a direct-to-video film. You could line this up side by side with the original and there'd basically be no drop off. It just looks so good. You can't say that about any other Lilo and Stitch film or TV series.
Stitch has a glitch. Lilo and Stitch. Stitch has a glitch. Only on Disney DVD Fall 2005.
heaven knows how you lied to me. You're not the way you
Leroy and Stitch was another TV movie, as it was the 2006 finale of the North American produced run of the series. It's the main payoff of the experiment saga from the TV show, as Hamsterville enlists Stitch's newly created evil clone Leroy to be his new henchman in galactic conquest, after the plan with the other 625 experiments didn't quite work out.
Shall I name you Leroy? Leroy?
It's a large-scale story from Earth to space and back again that brings about the needed epicness for a series conclusion. Even with all the large-scale adventure that there is here, the movie doesn't forget to have heart, and Lilo, Stitch, Jumba, and Pleakley all realizing what's truly important to them. Probably the best character development is reserved for Gantu, and especially 625 after their time as plotting henchman and lazy minion during the TV series. You get to the end of this film, and it's truly the Avengers Endgame final battle of Lilo and Stitch. Not quite on that particular scale or level of quality, but it did work as a nice conclusion.
You can join the fight for the galaxy in an all-new movie, Leroy and Stitch.
Lilo and Stitch, the TV series on Disney Channel, was just so fucking good. It came out shortly after the original movie and first sequel, originally airing from 2003 to 2006. It plays off the ending of Stitch the movie, with Lilo and Stitch on a mission to find the remaining 623 experiment pods scattered across Hawaii before they are hydrated. Once the pods are hydrated, the experiment is activated and the chaos ensues. The fun of the show was seeing the new experiment in every episode, and the battle Lilo and Stitch would have with Gantu to capture it. Of course, they don't forget to have some good messages for the kids. Not just the usual Ohana stuff, but some good stuff like honesty, friendship, being yourself, etc. There were 2 seasons of this show. Season 1 was definitely the better of the 2. There were just better stories and more iconic experiments, like Kix, 627, Bonnie and Clyde, or Angel. Given the amount of merchandise of Angel out there, you would think she was a character from the OG movie, but she actually comes from an episode in Season 1. Season 2 was fun as well, but it feels like they were running out of ideas for powers for the experiments. There were some really stupid ones, like one that causes Final Destination type bad luck, or another that grants wishes. The most notable thing about Season 2, and arguably the entire series, was the crossover episodes this show would have with other Disney Channel shows, in Kim Possible, American Dragon Jake Long, Proud Family, and Recess, thus creating one big shared Disney Channel animated show universe.
Aloha! I'm Lilo, and this is my dog, Stitch.
Aloha, Lilo. I'm Penny Proud. That's a cute... dog, did you say?
Overall, this was a great TV show that provided a lot of excellent content for the series, and where a majority of my nostalgia love for the franchise comes from.
Bow!
All the magic of the series goes back to the original film. A standout amongst all the films in the pantheon of Disney animated canon classics through its uniqueness, edginess, and fun. The story of Lilo and Stitch was something special to see, whether it was the action-driven sci-fi elements of the story like Stitch's escape or the climax, the fun between the two outcasts and realizing they were meant for each other, but especially those moments where it gets sad. For as much blue mayhem, fun, and weirdness there is in this film, it's gotta have the most sad and tender moments out of any Disney animated film. There's just a lot of moments dealing with the custody stress Nani is under, or Stitch's lack of belonging that you can rewatch for the billionth time and you still feel something. And there's just natural beauty on a technical level with the watercolored backgrounds, or the quality of character animation and designs in general. You gotta give an Elvis thank you very much for Lilo and Stitch, not just being the best of the franchise, but one of the best Disney movies ever.
Disney's Lilo and Stitch.
And there you have it with the ranking of all things Lilo and Stitch. Even if not everyone loved the new reimagining, which it got good reviews, so I feel like the general feedback and enthusiasm has been positive. But regardless, you can't deny that it brings about a great time to celebrate one of Disney's greatest franchise. That love for the series showed in the performance of the film at the box office this weekend. $183 million for the 4-day Memorial Weekend is just spectacular. It almost makes you forget that Snow White just came out a few months ago. I said this before the new movie came out, and I'm saying it again after this box office turnout, that more than any other Disney live-action reimagining, this is the one with real franchise potential based on what they have to work off of from the original film's sequels, mainly in the bigger story spawning from the experiment, which was teased during the climax of this new film. They don't have to follow it beat for beat. In fact, they can't, given what was done to Jumba and how there was no Gantu. But you could have a Sonic movie type franchise where each new movie brings in some new signature characters from the series, in Sparky, Angel, Reuben, 627, or Leroy. You could even be clever and combine the whole experiment-centered story with the notable plot points of Stitch Has a Glitch. But no matter what fun potential stories there are to tell, you can't forget about the relationship between Lilo and Stitch, which is the true heart of the franchise, whether it's animated or in live action. In other words, don't f*** this up, Disney. So that'll do it for this ranking of all things Lilo and Stitch. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you for watching.